It is October 24th, 2024. It just turned from 4:30 to 4:31 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is a consensual recording with Mystic Wind pursuant to the instructions of multiple FBI agents that are currently protecting me. I am going to go over a letter that I sent on the 20th of October to all of the federal felons facing prison time and/or their employers and/or everyone who had a legal requirement mandated by numerous policies, procedures, and laws to force compliance and to cease and desist from perpetrating what has now ultimately been over 100 separate crimes perpetrated against me by the North Everett Police Precinct, i.e. Unit 207, the condo directly above my home of 12 years, and a few prosecutors at the Snohomish County Prosecutor's Office. This letter was also received by every judge's personal law clerk at the Snohomish Superior Courthouse, the entire clerk's department, the superintendent of the school district that I've worked at for free for 7 years, both of my son's principals, property manager of my home of 12 years, Erica. Who else was it sent to? Oh, yes, the Snohomish County sheriffs, and of course the FBI. This was sent and received by all of those, as well as some third and fourth parties who knowingly or unknowingly were contacted and associated with federal felons facing 30 years to the rest of their life in prison due to their lack of immunity and ongoing as recent as this very moment crimes committed against me. So this letter was received by everybody just before noon Pacific Standard Time this last Sunday, 4 days ago. And I'm going to read it to you. First, I have to open up my email where it's saved. It's loading. Okay, here we go. The subject line first. Notice of ongoing criminal activity and FBI investigation. Save yourself and blow the whistle. Clerk's department and/or judge's personal clerks, please file in any/all cases with my names, as I have not been served anything, but my sons continue to be kidnapped. Now to the contents of the letter. Notice to all parties, this serves as a legally substantiated and final update to my previous communications dated September 15th, 2024 and October 15th and prior. Be advised that continued unlawful actions will be met with the full extent of legal recourse. 1. Ongoing criminal trespass and harassment. Despite repeated cease and desist letters, for 13 months, a year and 1 month, what will be 14 months in a week. No trespassing, no knocking signage, a documented reasonable accommodation request for contact exclusively via email. Via signage and filed declarations at Snohomish Superior Courthouse, which predate the first actionable kidnapping of my disabled sons on August 17th, 2024, superseding my reports on the threats of those whom are going to prison. And ongoing YouTube live stream evidence, 24/7 recordings while being held hostage in my home due to the crimes of Unit 207, North Everett Precinct prosecutors. North Everett Precinct officers under the direction of individuals in Unit 207. And third and fourth parties persist in unlawful behavior. This includes the incident of September 26, 2024, where officers attempted to illegally enter my residence, viewable on a YouTube live stream. These actions constitute criminal trespass and harassment. 2. Stalking and complicity in extortion. My parents, Erica Owens and Hans, who have been explicitly instructed to cease all contact, continue to engage in stalking behavior at the behest of individuals in Unit 207. Their actions, coupled with Erica Owens' ongoing extortion attempts related to the property I own due to paying the closing cost of over 5 times in the 12 years I have lived here, for which she has assumed liability through fraudulent activities at the Snohomish Superior Courthouse, will be addressed through legal channels. Stalking is a criminal offense. 3, fraudulent service and attempted interference with legal process. Keep in mind, this isn't in the email, but it should also say obstruction of justice, witness tampering, a litany of other charges. But it doesn't, guys. It says 3, fraudulent service and attempted interference with legal process. Unauthorized and unserved documents continue to be placed at my residence. Any claim of legal service since February 2023 is fraudulent and demonstratively false based on continuous YouTube live stream evidence. This constitutes interference with legal process and potential evidence tampering. 4, ongoing pattern of stalking and civil rights violations. The North Everett precinct and individuals within Unit 207 bear direct financial and legal liability for their coordinated campaign of stalking, harassment, and civil rights violations. This includes attempts to kidnap my children, perpetrate fraud, and interfere with my lawful right to pursue legal action. Formal legal notice. I am operating under the explicit guidance of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, as a confidential informant. Any individual or entity identified as a federal felon by the FBI is prohibited from contacting me or interfering with my legal processes. Dated this 20th day of October 2024, I declare under penalty of perjury that all of the aforementioned is true and correct. Sincerely, Mystic Gwen, formerly Lynette Renee Hansen, years before COVID. It is now 4:38 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, October 24th, 2024. Let me make sure that's the correct time. I'm a little blind. Oh no, it's 4:38, not 4:39. 4:38 a.m. Pacific Standard. This is a consensual recording with Mystic Gwen. You're going to have to hear me say at least one of the sentences that you just heard me say again, because I do need to play this video on a separate laptop and make sure that there is audio. But first, I'm going to go into my studio on YouTube and mark the preceding live stream as private, so it's only shareable if I decide to provide a link. And you may be wondering, well, why am I doing that? Well, some of the people that are going to prison for the rest of their lives haven't seen my last live stream. And since they've decided to go to prison based on their pattern of conduct, they don't get the joy of getting advice that I should be invoicing them for. Okay. Now I will put down this laptop and push play on the other one to make sure we have audio. It does appear that we do, and not once have I not had audio, so I kind of think it's stupid that I have to do this each time, but whatever. You guys smiled for that little photo opportunity. Don't worry, nerdy federal felons, yes indeedy. You'll be hearing Lord of the Rings again today. But not until the sun comes up, my little doorbell. It's no secret. There is currently 1.5 federal felons in Unit 207 that I don't feel deserve to be in prison for the rest of their life. Why 1.5? Because one just bounces back and forth. Sometimes his behavior is so revolting. And the other one's a solid I love. And remember, guys, it is Thursday. We were told that today and tomorrow, furious federal felons, and next week on Friday, furious federal felons, and next week on Saturday, furious federal felons. But I don't know which ones. I don't know if it's the North Everett Police Precinct. I don't know if it's Erica. All I know, maybe it's all of them. I don't know. But it is Thursday, guys, and they said today and tomorrow, furious federal felons. And next week, Friday and Saturday, same thing. And what that means for me while being held hostage is that the Mason military guy is right next to me, guys, just waiting for the first person to walk in the door. And don't worry, anybody, if I'm macing anyone, I'll be damn sure to have the laptop in one hand and the mace in the other. I'm going to film me spraying it in their face. And I'm going to keep spraying until they're on the ground, coughing and choking. Dear Godzilla, I'm so grateful for the whistleblowers, including the more than one that's upstairs right now.
who have to listen to me talk to their friends who won't accept sense. And I'm grateful for the FBI, the sheriffs, cheap cigars, my cat, black coffee, and the fact that I never run out. Amen. Maybe it's more comfortable for a cat to have his arms laying down on the side. Good morning, good morning. I'm so glad. I can't see you. Good morning. Mm, 2 shots of coffee are done. Mullet. Guten Morgen. Are you ready for some num-nums, Hunter? Is that why you rose? You ready for some num-nums? You want more? Bon appetit, my little kitty. So happy with the little things, man. Give your cat a can of sweet and really appreciate it. Also, just as a little aside, since so many of the federal felons are so undertrained, what you guys have done is akin to what OJ did to his wife and got away with criminally. But he was sued civilly by Nicole's mommy and daddy, and he was found guilty. That preponderance of evidence is going to castrate / give a clitorectomy to everyone who's already guilty that I don't get to know because I'm still being held hostage day 78. And as adjudicated in the highest court in the state, a member of the clergy for all legal purposes, my word is to be trusted as much, if not more, than any police officer especially those who have gotten 13 months of cease and desist letters. Oh, and I will be suing those that told the officers, go ahead, you got the authorization to approach your door. Yeah, they're getting sued too, guys. Don't worry about that. I got that all under control. My 2-page lawsuits, that's how they're going to kick off. Every knock. Less the whistleblowers. I'm like 90% confident at least Ashley blew the whistle to the FBI. And you may wonder why. Let me tell you why. Because the FBI, unlike all of you, enforces the law. Oh, and the FBI has told me I will have all of your names that were upstairs the last time they came here and tried to illegally walk on my door because of your instructions. Including the guy that was like, no, we can't do it now. She started a YouTube live stream early. To that guy, I sure hope you blew the whistle, dude, because you're probably the smartest one in your troop of people going to prison. That was a very bad call. And it was made out of the desperation of the woman who's going to prison for 80 plus years, guys, that really doesn't want to go till after Christmas. No, I didn't hear you, if that makes you feel better. I was informed. To the guy I just pointed out was probably the smartest one upstairs. Sorry to put you on the spot there. I know you're a nervous Nelly. Anyway, Mr. Nervous Nelly, you'll find that there will be multiple instances in the future where you'll think back to scenarios exactly like that one specific instance, and you'll think, I should have listened to myself into fucking her. But I suspect, given that you're probably the smartest one upstairs right now, that you're probably one of the whistleblowers, Mr. Nervous Nelly. But I don't know. I only suspect that because you obviously are the smartest in the bunch. However, you've also displayed in your pattern of conduct that you don't care that you're the smartest. You always assume that those around you are smarter, and they're not. Which you've seen for yourself so many times in the last year, and yet you're still upstairs, Mr. Nervous Nelly. Anyway, I can only speculate, but I speculate if Mr. Nervous Nelly was actually the one in charge upstairs, that my sons would be here and I would have at least half of the $20,000 you've stolen, and I wouldn't be held hostage. But he has proven that he just does whatever the federal felons who are around him does, even when he knows better. And Mr. Nervous Nelly, you do know better than a majority that's around you, so perhaps you'll grow some fucking balls and blow the whistle if you haven't done it already. You guys have 7 days left of winning lengthier prison sentences. And I also know there is also a woman and a man upstairs that are not Mr. Nervous Nelly, that are totally convinced in their own minds, no, I'm the smartest. If you blew the whistle, then you are. 5:17 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, October 24th, 2024. It's a Thursday, and it's a frustrating Thursday for a lot of the federal felons. And they're still frustrated tomorrow. Frustrating time for the federal felons going to prison. Those who have blown the whistle, not so much. And that sounded like the door of one of my coolest neighbors who was. I tried to only give you salmon and chicken yesterday, since it says online you can become a legal determinant, which I didn't know, but you clearly shown that you are. So what's the best interest of the children, guys? Here it is. Are you ready? I'm going to break it down for you. This is the best interest. Until you release me from being your hostage and pay me enough of the money that you've stolen from me since February 2nd for their phones to be activated and allow activation. And there is home internet here. The children should not be returned here. Now, once that happens, something you're continuing to postpone by making it impossible for me to earn money for my career of over a decade, which I missed one day of work from over the course of 11 years until you began holding me hostage, and I've not been able to work a day since. We're on day 78. And then every single website that I've been approved for same day pay, from Amazon Turk to Respondent to Try Meta, you are blocking my ability to make money. You let me make $5. And since you still owe me money from one of your third parties you instructed not to pay me and then helped create the paperwork to make him not pay me, which you threatened and I reported many, many months ago, as is on file in the courthouse. How strange it was to hear from the prosecutor's office that something that was legally required wasn't going to happen months before the first actionable kidnapping, eh? Now, in the event that phone and internet is all activated, keep in here, I still have a prepaid balance on my Lyft. $100. Now, that being said, Indy's going to start wrestling in November. At that point in time, his grades are going to immediately start to slip. He'll be happy to be driven since he is afraid to cross Broadway in the dark, and you forced coaches not to transport Indigo, coaches who've blown the whistle without even getting my emails. Yeah, some of you who were liked at the school district, FYI, ever since the first memo went out to the superintendent saying you did kidnap my sons, you've lost all respect with the school district. Anyway, that being said, in the event that the internet and the phones are all working, Indigo's grades are going to start to slip, not the first week that he's doing wrestling. It'll be like before. It'll be the second or third week. He's going to be too tired, sleepy, and grumpy and mad when he can't make himself function on 5 hours of sleep, and he falls asleep and doesn't get woken up from his naps. And that season went into January, well, really February, but you used Mr. Garcia to convince Indy not to go to the celebration and receive his varsity letter. Then you stole his ability to get a Letterman's jacket and made his mommy a liar. Anyway, let's say hypothetically the internet's on, their phones are restored. You've made it so that I personally don't think it's in my son's best interest if they aren't returned this week, which the FBI has said on no uncertain terms isn't going to happen because some of you going to prison for the rest of your life depends on it not happening, and you've deliberately, intentionally, and willfully and in bad faith not remedied your frauds for months. So anyway, internet, phones are working. We're looking at late January. And when the children are returned, I would say that I'm going to need a restraining order preventing the Owens and my multiple times convicted stalker and abuser from ever talking about me in any capacity with my sons. And or I'm going to need them to completely be out of the boys' lives for a solid 1 month. But I've been told by the FBI, you see, that I don't need to worry about restraining anybody. Every single one of you that will be convicted of stalking me, in addition to the litany of other charges you have no immunity for. Apparently, the FBI is going to make sure that those who require restraint in any way involving me will be restrained in every way involving me by the FBI. So it is literally just a waiting game. And ideally, at this point, I would like my boys not to come home until we can absolutely go to Kauai for a solid month. And whose fault is that? It's all of your faults. Federal felons going to prison, and most notably the sadistic female who may or may not be upstairs at this present point in time, who went from looking at 3 years in prison to over 80 years because she didn't want to lose her job. Anyway, that was all part of her plans, and some of you went along with it. And I just want to be clear. You will be going to prison for that. Whistleblowers excluded. It's 5:39 a.m. Thursday morning. Rewind to the beginning of this live stream so that you can be briefed with what is pertinent for you to know. Everything you hear beyond that is me talking to the federal felons that are actively stalking me directly above my head. like they have been for 13 or 19 months, depending on which person you're looking at. And then keep in mind, guys, the FBI has stated they have recorded both of my sons stating they would have run home, but they're not allowed to be around their mom because of you, federal felons, not for any legal reason, not even for any legitimate court order. Make no mistake, I could go to school and pick up both of my boys, and you could have the cops come there. And if I had a YouTube live stream rolling, I'd be leaving with my sons. And if your cops touched me or tried to prevent it with an illegitimate court order, they would be immediately thrown to the ground and cuffed by the Snohomish County Sheriffs and or the FBI within 10 minutes. So it's a good thing you're holding me hostage for this 78th day. And I'm so confident on that comment, guys, that I may just ignore the FBI's instructions to go straight to the courthouse when I'm released. Here's another thing, guys. You know what the FBI has said happened on October 15th? The FBI stated on October 15th, any remaining would-be believers of your smear stalking federal felony campaign completely absolved themselves of any level of credence paid to anything you've ever said or will say to them in the future. And it was implied that that very much had to do with everyone that works for the school district. The school district that I worked at free for 7 years and donated thousands and thousands of dollars every year. That's school district. Oh, and more from the middle school than you would be comfortable with, one of you. Wink, wink. Just remember, guys, the FBI has friends everywhere, and there is not a civilian in this city who doesn't think it's cooler to work with the FBI than with people who are going to prison. Not a civilian in this city. What a crazy story. It blows my mind that 9-year-olds are living alone in these slums. Blows my mind.
This cult's crimes. Listener discretion is advised. This episode contains discussions of violence.
This is an interesting little known cult. Alice was a woman who led a cult in Uganda, where her and her cult members somehow were able to defeat whole armies. But not for long, guys. It was accredited to her being so close to God. But then her army started losing. But they did have miraculous victories at the beginning. Anyway, it's a very fascinating cult. And it's one of those few cults that it's hard to find any documentaries on because it's like pretty limited, right? Everybody knows about Jonestown, Heaven's Gate, Waco. I personally am surprised that the United States has apparently adopted the French's belief that apparently Mormonism or the FLDS is now considered a cult. That's really weird. Anyway, this woman's cult is very interesting though because she literally waged war and should not have won many a battles, yet she did. And then eventually Godzilla took that away from her and she lost many battles. Her name is Alice, and I can't pronounce the rest of her name, but we're going to say it in this podcast. This is a Spotify original podcast called Cult. It's literally just about different cults.
Let's have more. We advise extreme caution for children up to 14. That day in 1985 could have been just like any other for Severino McCoy. But it was very, very long. By the time he found his daughter, she wasn't his only one. 29-year-old Alice was under the command of someone else. Or maybe it was something.
Alice Aluma. That's how he pronounced it. Let's hope it's right.
Alice. Severino tried to communicate with Alice, but it was no use. She couldn't hear or speak. He dragged his daughter across the abandoned village of Oak Keys, looking for a way to free her from the spirit's hold. They visited nearly a dozen healers, but nothing worked. Severino was terrified for Alice, but then slowly something dawned on him. Maybe this moment wasn't so bad after all. Maybe it was a sign. Decades ago, God had come to him in a vision. One of his children would come near him with the Holy Spirits. Severino had no idea who would be selected or when it would happen. The more he thought of it, though, the more Severino was sure Alice had been chosen. She was the child who'd been blessed by God himself. She was the one. Hi, I'm Greg Benson. And I'm Vanessa Richardson. And this is Cults, a Spotlight original podcast. Every Tuesday, we witnessed numerous miracles. He believed that God had designed every single part of his life. If anything bad happened to him, it was a punishment for sin. And if anything good happened, it was proof that he was following the righteous path. By 1958, Severino had achieved the life that he believed God had promised him. He had a wife and many children, including 2-year-old Alice. The family lived in northern Uganda, where Severino and his wife raised their children as Anglicans, a branch of Christianity. Severino even worked as a catechist for the Anglican Church of Uganda. Things seemed to be going well, but at some point over the years, 4 of the family's children died. Severino believed this was God's punishment for his sins. Then, on November 11, 1958, Severino received a urgent message from God, and he suddenly lost consciousness. There are conflicting stories about how exactly this happened. One version claims that he fell off the roof of his house. Another says that his wife beat him so severely that he fell dead. Either way, Severino passed out, and in his altered state, he witnessed a minor and holy vision. According to Severino, his spirit is fully human, and he had several biblical details. The first was Jesus, who pulled up Severino's name in a book of all the living people on earth. Written next to his name was the word God. Abraham appeared next, and he seemed moved by the presence of this word. Clearly, it meant that Severino was destined to be part of something very important. Abraham passed the important message to David, who told Severino to look to the north. He gazed up and saw creatures all around him, praying for peace on earth. Finally, Moses arrived, offering Severino the 10 Commandments. He instructed Severino to bring the tablets back to earth. But as Moses said these words, Severino experienced a sudden aching sensation. He was possessed by countless spirits. He felt their energy moving through him in a fast burst. In an instant, a voice called out, "All these spirits will come to your children. A choice has already been made among your children." And with that, Severino woke up. He was deeply impacted by the vision. Severino had no way of knowing which child was going to be called upon by the spirits, but one of them would be, he was sure of not, and he acted accordingly. And this is where we take over on the psychology here at Columbia Center. Please note that this is not a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist, but we have done a lot of research for the show. Thanks, Greg. Most people are familiar with the concept of a self-fulfilling prophecy, or the belief that something will happen ends up making it happen. There's another concept similar to this, called the observer expectancy effect. Normally, this term is used around psychological studies. A researcher can inadvertently influence the results of a study with their preconceived ideas of how things will turn out. Small cues, like the observer's facial expressions or body language, can discreetly sway the study participants toward the expected outcome. The information surrounding Alice Alvarez's childhood is hazy at best, but it's likely that after her father's vision of heaven, Severino behaved differently toward his children, even if he didn't realize it. And it's also possible that this slight change helped push Alice toward her own realization as an adult that she was the chosen one. But that process would take a long, long run. What little was known about Alice's early life, her day-to-day experience wasn't especially open. She went to primary school and went to quit after her 7th year. As a young woman, Alice married twice, but both ended for the same reason. She wasn't producing children. So after things ended with her second husband in 1979, Alice chose to return to her father's home in the northern village of Everett. There, 23-year-old Alice made a modest living for herself, selling fish at the railway station. She briefly began seeing another man, though it's not known what came of that relationship. Then, at some point, she converted from Anglicanism to Catholicism. On its surface, this change wasn't that monumental. By the late 1980s, 66% of Ugandans were Christians, with a nearly even split between Protestants and Catholics. And Christians in Uganda often blended their faith with elements from other local religions, creating a hybrid spiritual practice. This was true for the Acholi people, the community that lived in the northern region of Uganda. So it wasn't unusual for Alice, as an Acholi person, to gravitate toward Catholicism. But this change might also suggest that she was starting to reconsider her relationship satisfied with the face she was considering. She wanted something different, something that was good to her. But even if Alice assumed she didn't quite find what she was looking for. For 6 years, Alice Alabama lived as anonymous as anyone else. She, like the neighbors in Oakland, tried to live a normal life, while the future of her country hung in the balance. From the 1960s to the 1980s, tensions rose between the founding government and its people. Power changed hands several times, and once it was moved to Oakland, they used their role to take swift revenge on anyone who had stood in their way. In 1985, this long period of retribution exploded in a military coup, followed by an all-out civil war. It must have been an extremely stressful, uncertain time for Alice, but it proved to be important for a very different reason. That year, when she was 29 years old, her life changed forever. Something happened to Alice. Severino found her in the midst of what might look like a psychotic episode. Alice couldn't speak. She couldn't hear. She began to write, like she was an entirely different person. The more Severino observed his daughter, the more he was sure of it. She wasn't herself at all. She had been possessed. In the Jewish community, the concept of spiritual possession reached across religious beliefs. It didn't matter if someone was Christian or practiced the traditional religions from pre-colonial times. This sort of thing could happen to anyone. The spirit inhabiting the victim is called a sen, and it's the vengeful ghost of a person who suffered a bad death. People believe that the sen had the power to inflict all kinds of problems and illnesses on its victim, including infertility, insanity, and even AIDS. So this kind of attack was a very urgent matter and something that had to be taken care of immediately. Severino took Alice all over the village of Oakland, visiting 11 local healers, but none of them found a way to help. Both Alice and her father were likely terrified. At some point, the feeling around this moment shifted. Severino remembered a prophetic message from God, saying that one of his children would be chosen as a spirit medium. Maybe this was the answer to that message. Maybe Alice was the one. Alice was evidently aware enough to comprehend the importance of this moment too. She known about this mysterious message from God since she was a child. Soon, both she and her father were convinced Alice had been chosen. Suddenly, the possession seemed to retreat, or at least Alice could speak again. Then, almost immediately, she began preaching the word of God to the village of Oakland people. In April, Alice asked for people to gather in the town center so they could witness how her father had blessed her with this holy gift. But the community wasn't initially convinced of her prowess as a religious leader. No one came. Alice wasn't determined. She could already feel it. She was chosen for something great, something much bigger than herself. The spirits would show her the path. And in a way, she was right. A message was coming for Alice Alma. In a few short weeks, her life would be changed forever. Coming up, Alice receives the call. Love. It's been the subject of poems, novels, music, and film. It's also been the driving force behind some of the most horrendous crimes in history. Hi, I'm Vanessa Richardson. Join me for season 2 of Criminal Couples, and meet the lovers who take their passion to perilous lengths. Featuring standout episodes from female criminals, serial killers, solved murders, and crimes of passion. This season of Criminal Couples gets to the heart of what makes two turn to a life of... I hear these ads for these true crime podcasts, and I just think that sounds so fucking stupid. But man, I am addicted to podcasts on cults. I just wish there was one that was like on the doctrine of cults. All of the cult podcasts tell you about like the leader and then usually the crimes that eventually lead to people dying or being convicted or people later coming out and complaining about the cults. I want a podcast that teaches the doctrine and beliefs of each cult. You know what I'm saying? Like Heaven's Gate. All that I know about their belief system is that the guy that ran it was somehow able to convince men to cut off their genitalia, which no one should be telling you to mutilate your body. Although it is true. There's the reason why Catholic priests routinely you'll see like in films where they're flogging themselves, whipping themselves,
The reason for that, if you don't know, is because the belief is that if you physically harm yourself, you're alleviating Godzilla from having to make you feel pain in other ways. See what I'm saying? Like, let's say you're in an unhappy marriage. Instead of making you sadder about that, the belief is if you're praying and asking for absolution and then flogging yourself, you're diminishing your sadness in the future, increasing involving your life. Anyway, there's no podcast though that tells us the nuances. Like, other than knowing that that guy made people castrate people, the only other tidbits I know of their doctrine and belief was that they thought they were going to hop onto a comet. And I have yet to find a podcast that just talks about the doctrine. They all describe cults like a little story. Here's the inception of the cult, this was the cult in the peak, and here's the end result. But it would be great if there was a podcast that went over the doctrine. Like, did applesauce have special significance to Heaven's Gate? Did they think that that was like what Christians think bread is? You know, eating Jesus's body? Anyway, back to the podcast. Again, I'm listening to a Spotify original. Cults.
For murderous crime. Some couples were set off by revenge or greed. Others were
And they're trying to sell some sort of murdering true crime couple podcast.
Darker side of desire in season 2 of the Spotify original for podcast Criminal Couples. Follow for free and tune in every Monday only on Spotify.
Now back to the story.
By 1985, 29-year-old Alice Alma was certain that her father's prophetic vision was true. God had chosen Alice to spread the holy word. There was just one problem. No one else believed her.
Because at this point, Alice's claims weren't exactly clean. Spirit mediums are actually pretty common in the region, and almost all of them said they've been possessed by a spirit at some point.
To better understand Alice's trajectory, we need to take a step back and look at the way that spirituality already existed in Ghana and within her community without unity. Religion was a major part of the Choli culture. Many people in the region practiced various forms of Christian ideology, including Alice's own family. But as we mentioned earlier, these beliefs were often blended with elements of the traditional Choli religion, which had its own unique rites and rituals.
A perfect example of this was the presence of spirit mediums or priests called Ajwaka. According to the community, Ajwakas were able to communicate with ancestral spirits who would feed them with supernatural powers.
They were an integral part of daily life in our community. We had healers who claimed to cure the sick and cast out any evil forces brought on by curses or evil spirit possession. The Acholi people even believed that an Ajwaka could inflict a spirit possession on someone if they wanted to.
Ajwaka were often Acholi women who couldn't have children. It was believed that the spirit commanding the Ajwaka didn't allow her to conceive, so that she could not communicate with the ancestral realm.
But to become an Ajwaka, a woman had to experience a series of specific life events.
Most notably, she would be struck by violent unknown illness. Even if her family brought her to a local healer, they couldn't be able to determine the source of her problem or offer to have a cure, because she wasn't actually sick. She'd been possessed by a spirit.
The intensity of this possession only faded when the woman accepted her role as a leader for these ancestral forces. Then, the spirit restored her faculties, allowing her to speak and behave as normal. And once an Ajwaka followed their commandments, then she could heal the sick, foretell the future, take spiritual vengeance on enemies, and cast out spiritual illnesses that plagued the community.
So far, Alice Akima was walking the same path that many other Ajwaka had already taken. But in May 1985, her journey emerged.
Because Alice wasn't interested in becoming an Ajwaka, she wasn't just going to be a healer. She claimed to be a Nabi, the Christian version of an Ajwaka.
This distinction was important. The Ajwaka were inhabited by ancestral spirits, victims of evil who belonged to the community. But Nabi was often possessed by unknown spirits who served as messengers for God himself.
The titles represent different things, and Andromeda is a healer and practitioner of magic, and Melody is a prophet.
After this point, Alice's story became a blend of fact and fiction. So, as we continue with her story, it's important to acknowledge that we don't always know which version of events is actually true.
The events that allegedly occurred throughout May
Probably neither of them.
fun, and it's
Get real.
apologize for the story called The Journey to Para, and that eventually became the backbone of Alice's entire movement.
The story goes like this. On May 15th, the same spirit once again possessed Alice. By this point, she had been given a name, Laquena, which means messenger in the Estonia language.
Wow, Laquena. I like it. Laquena.
Spirit was a dead Italian military officer. He was profoundly intelligent, fluent in 74 languages.
That
Alice
sucks.
later described him as a God-fearing and disciplined
A dead Italian, really?
Laquena instructed Alice and Severino to travel from Ophir to Para, a national park over 40 miles west. There, Laquena explained that she would speak to the animals. Evidently, they had something to teach her.
The journey took Alice and her father 4 days, but finally they reached the park, surrounded by the lush greenery. Alice felt connected to everything she saw: the animals, the waterfalls, even the grass.
As the story goes, she first spoke to the landowners, saying, God sent me to ask you whether you bear responsibility for the bloodshed in Uganda. They told Alice that they held no role in the violence.
She then spoke to the aquatic animals and even to the water itself. She asked who caused so much violence in her country.
The waterfall was the first natural being to get asked. It explained that all the blame lay upon the shoulders of humankind, more specifically, the cities of the world. The waterfall promised to provide Alice with clean water so that she could then those in need. She pledged to offer the sacrifice of coins, cowrie shells, and a sheep in lettuce.
Alice returned to Ophir on May 30th without the healing water, but her journey wasn't over. A few days later, she received another message from Laquena. She and her father needed to travel even further. This time they made their way to Mount Kara in the Ugandan South Sudan border.
When Alice and Severino reached the mountain, a panorama of light guided them to a specific spot. The overwhelming excitement they followed the gold peak into the brush and dark.
Finally, the orb reached its destination, floating in place above the grassy surface of a small pond. This was the promise that the waterfall had made to her back in Para. The water had been instilled with healing properties.
Alice gathered as much of the liquid as she could to bring it back for Pete. Her community desperately needed help, and now, with this hope in hand, Alice had the tools to cure them.
But the water wasn't the only reason that Alice needed to come to the summit. As she had already seen in Para, the natural world was alive with voices, and she had another lesson to learn. According to the story, Laquena spoke Buddha, addressing the element itself. Laquena asked why there was theft in the world.
The Bible said that the natural elements played no role in such things. Again, Alice was told that the sinners were responsible for theft and for all the corruption that had been brought to the earth. The mountain and animals, none of them were sinful in the way people explain. People were the ones who had to be punished, particularly those practicing national witchcraft.
The evil nature of humankind led them to practice witchcraft, which only brought about more violence, bloodshed, and tyranny. This was the source of such endless suffering across Uganda.
The mountain left Alice with one final message, a call to action. It wasn't enough for her to know this universal truth. Humankind had to become responsible for their terrible deeds.
She had a holy quest to complete. Through the guidance of Laquena, Alice understood that it was her job to fight against the sinners of the world, bring peace to the planet, and heal.
Now, it's unlikely that any of this happened, but this mythic story served an important purpose. It was the proof that Alice needed to legitimize her claims of divine guidance.
A spiritual mission is a common element in many religious leaders' origin story, but they might adopt the story for a variety of reasons. Some individuals fall into a category that therapist Rachel Bernstein describes as the delusional liar.
Spoiler alert, everybody who's listening to this podcast. Every single human being that is actually alive in here is on a spiritual quest. Don't forget, federal felons or not, the only objective, the very purpose of your existence, is for you to stay alive no matter what. And if you're here and alive, you've done it before.
But sometimes a spiritual calling acts as a way to fulfill his self-obsession. If an individual already feels special, this religious epiphany reinforces that belief. Bernstein calls these types of leaders the hard and fast narcissist, a person who exploits religious power to reaffirm their sense of superiority over others. But as a spiritual awakening, this is so simple to categorize. Her community in Oak already had its own system of spiritualism, so she needed to demonstrate that she was in a class entirely her own. She wasn't simply a healer, but a prophet, someone destined for far greater things.
So the trip to Colorado wasn't just a way to confirm her.
So let's talk about that for a second. Since I am a legally ordained minister, and this is the 78th day of being held hostage by a bunch of knuckleheads who, rather than taking accountability for the heinous and egregious crimes they perpetrated against me and my sons, and a litany of other people now facing prison time because of them. The podcast just said that this woman that they're talking about, Alice Lapina, AUMA, she told everybody she was a prophet. If you haven't looked in the Bible, it says very clearly in the Bible this, that those that are indeed prophets are hated by whatever city they live in. Because they tell the truth. So the fact that she would call herself that, and then according to this podcast, some guy that is a professional thinks that shows how narcissistic she is. I think that guy probably hasn't read the Bible very much. What do you think?
Her unique connection with God. It was a way of challenging the established system and of forging an entirely new path for herself.
Above everything else, this profound experience completely changed Alice. By this time, she had shed her given name, Alice Alva.
She was now Alice Lapina. The spirit had taken control of her entire self, and her identity was now inextricably tied together. The spirit had a plan for her, and she was ready to follow it wherever it took her.
Finally, her holy quest could begin.
Coming up, Alice's movement takes shape, and she gains her first followers. Now back to the story.
But you see, guys, if you're going about things the right way, then you neither want nor need quote unquote followers.
When Alice Lapina returned to Oak in the summer of 1985, she brought with her a holy quest to fight against the sinners of the world. The spirit of Lapina would show the 29-year-old how to combat witchcraft and the forces of evil that plagued Uganda. Only then would she help restore peace and purify the people affected by the ongoing fighting.
Alice's prophetic journey had kept her away from Oak for 40 years, and in that time, the conditions in her village had become dire.
Decades of violence had
suffered massive casualties, battling against it cooling and quickly gained traction. In O'Keefe, Alice felt it could be a state of constant worry and profound fear.
A lot of the alarm, paranoia, and desperation that spread through O'Keefe was connected to a fear of witchcraft.
The concept of witchcraft had existed within the local culture for centuries, well before European colonization. Witchcraft was often used to explain day-to-day problems. Illnesses or bad fortune could be the result of a curse or even possession by an evil spirit.
But witchcraft was also thought to inflict larger evils, such as political unrest, epidemics, and violence. All of these things were thought to be disruptions of the moral order and a result of evil people dabbling in dark forces.
Normally, problems caused by witchcraft would be solved through purification or healing rituals, often performed by spiritual mediums.
For example, soldiers returning home from war would be healed before they were allowed back into the community, so that they didn't bring the spirits of the dead with them.
But by 1985, many people believed that the levels of witchcraft had reached a dangerous high. They were surrounded by so much violence and bloodshed that there had to be a reason for all this suffering. They assumed that more people must be practicing witchcraft than ever before. Neighbors turned against each other, accusing them of causing the ongoing violence that threatened their community.
One way to think of this reaction is as a form of emotional displacement. As people felt powerless to stop the war raging around them, it might be easier to displace their fear, anger, or frustration onto a familiar source, like a neighbor or a spouse. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs found that it's especially common for people to express feelings of anger after long periods of distress. Basically, there's a relationship between anger and trauma. This might be because anger is connected to our survival instincts, which are heightened during times of threat, like war. Even before the Civil War in the 1980s, Uganda had been in turmoil. Now, the intrepid people were dealing with constant casualties and the promise of more violence to come. So it's not surprising that some people chose to displace their anger and fear onto others in their community. We also have to consider the specific context of the intrepid people and how they interpreted the concept of witchcraft. In this community, it is widely believed that people used mystical forces as an act of revenge, so the suspicion was already inherent. Combine that with the trauma from the ongoing Civil War, and it was almost inevitable that neighbors would accuse each other of supernatural violence.
This was the culture that Alice Laquetta returned to after her spiritual awakening. Based on the information we have, it's unclear how she grappled with attention at first, but it does seem like she spent some time using her newfound powers in a similar way that Andromeda did.
Well, it sounds like she came back to a neighborhood where all of the neighbors were fighting. And let's talk about that from a biblical perspective, federal felons and anyone else that's watching. The Bible really clearly points out that your neighbor is not your friend. You find in the Bible that it advises that you feed a homeless beggar you don't know before you invite your neighbor over for dinner. Which is interesting because I've always gotten along with all of my neighbors until the federal felons of the North Everett precinct, Unit 207, and then, of course, their co-stalkers, Andrew and Kelly, or Randall, whatever the fuck his real name is, Andy and Kelly. Prior to that, I had 38 years of good neighbor relations. But the Bible does indeed say you're better off to invite a homeless beggar over to your house for dinner because he'll be truly appreciative than a neighbor.
One story claims that when Alice arrived back in O'Keefe, she used the waters from Mount Caleb to miraculously heal the wounds of soldiers returning from battle.
This story is a useful insight into the first few months of Alice's new life as a religious prophet. It's possible that, despite her holy mission, she believed that her powers were necessary to heal the sick.
And see, her holy mission, they said, was to kill sinners, and I wonder if that's actually what she said her holy mission was. Because there is no mission, no objective, and no purpose to anybody's life who is here other than to choose eternal life, which means choosing to stay alive in this life, no matter what Godzilla gives to you and then takes away, or dangles in front of you and then takes away. And the better you are at choosing eternal life, the more stressful occurrences you find in your current.
and protect them from witchcraft.
And as the year ended, things weren't looking.
Oh, and there's no such thing as witchcraft, everybody. You can do whatever you want that you think is going to do something, but it all is orchestrated by what I call Godzilla.
Looking hopeful, the government's National Liberation Army and the National Resistance Army, or NRA, met for peace talks. It seemed like the fighting might finally cease. But it was a fleeting hell.
In January of 1986, the NRA marched on the United capital of Kampala, overturning the government and destroying the defense laws. The Italian people suffered more massive casualties. The fighters who did survive watched over the mail.
Suddenly, Oak Creek was overrun with former soldiers, but the community didn't want them, afraid of them.
And hey, Unit 207, I like it when you don't know if what I'm saying is right, so you look it up to see if it's really in the Bible. I don't misquote the Bible. I've read every published spiritual text in this world. Quite literally, guys.
But the spirits of the dead that clung to them, they worried they would bring more misfortune and suffering to the village.
The fear was palpable. Even the healing powers of Yajwaka weren't much of a comfort. Too many people had died, and too many soldiers were coming to the village. It just wasn't safe enough.
But Alice wasn't afraid of these men, but she made her mission to heal them, even if no one else would. She set up a purification site on the outskirts of the village. The process often took several days and involved a variety of rituals.
Alice's process borrowed some elements of the Acholi religion and mixed them with Christian rites, creating a system entirely her own. She named her practice Local Spirit Movement.
The soldiers were instructed to burn whatever magic charms they had brought into battle. Then Alice sprinkled them with water and made them say Catholic prayers. Finally, they had to spit out all their evil deeds into a pig's mouth. The pig would.
Well, I can tell you guys right now. She's doing way too much, guys.
Then ritually sacrificed.
When it came time for the soldiers to return to war, Alice purified them again. The soldiers created small, human-like forms out of clay to represent the spirits they'd taken with them from battle. They placed these clay figures under a tree and prayed that all the evil spirits would stay with the tree and not follow them to the battlefield.
Over several days, the soldiers revisited the figures, scratching them and praying over them. They also took part in Alice's version of Holy Communion. She gave them a magical medicine made from sacrificed animal parts and vegetables. It was meant to strengthen and protect the land more.
All of this is just totally unnecessary. Woo-woo stuff, guys. She's making. I guess she's making a point or something.
After this process, the soldiers were finally considered pure. They could be reintegrated into the community and could return to the battlefield, spiritually armed against the enemy.
Alice blessed and purified 150 soldiers around this time. She left an impact on the soldiers under her care, solidifying her role as a powerful spiritual leader. These men were the initial members of her Holy Spirit movement.
And we're going to end this live stream. Surprise, surprise.
Maybe this was the path that Laquena
In a
had
minute.
set out for her.
But on August 6, 1986, Alice received another message. Laquena told her to stop healing. to him it was a foolish task that no longer had any value.
Because at this point, the Acholi people were being targeted with even more violence in the form of retribution. The new Ugandan leader
It's 6:32 a.m. I'm ending this live stream and immediately initiating another.
That